Okay, so you've got the broad picture of your target market, and then take it the next step. I broke it down into my 5 products and wrote just one sentence describing who these people are, so I can get a clear picture in my mind of how to speak to them. I'm not going to read all of that. You guys can read. Next slide. And then once you've done that, you can take it even further. And it was extremely helpful to me to describe who was my ideal customer. Who is she or he? I wanted to deal directly with all of my customers, and I want people who want to deal that way. And this is big. The middle one, they have to. Unfortunately, I'd like to feed the world, but I am trying to make a living with this. So I knew from the beginning my customer had to have enough disposable income to afford my products. And I know that Diane feels the same way. I know she has no qualms whatsoever about being one of or the highest price vendor in his farmer's market, because she knows what it costs to produce her product, and she knows that she has to make a living. And if she weren't, she wouldn't have been at it for 20 plus years. I mean, this is the key to sustainability, to longevity. In my particular case, it was important to me that my ideal customers were very comfortable shopping online. Now, know that this was 20 years ago that I wrote this. 20 years ago, not everybody was shopping online, but even today, not everyone is still. So this is basically it. These are the criteria. Next slide, Cinda. So I have a pretty good picture in my mind of who I'm talking to. The next thing to think about is pricing. Diane touched on it too. It's kind of difficult because we don't want to overcharge. We would like to, we'd like everyone to be able to afford our products. But if you're going to keep going, sustainability includes a living wage. So to figure out your pricing, of course, and you're going to work on this later in this series, you're going to know your costs, know your profit margin. What do you have to make? What do you have to make to keep doing it? And quality. Quality is worth more money. Set very high standards for yourself, for your products, and believe in it. Tell your customers you have high quality, because if they don't perceive that you believe you have high quality products, why should they? Go around, check prices with your competition, and make sure your product is better than what they're doing. And I go into the grocery stores too and regularly check the prices of meat, and I add at least 50% because my product is entirely different from feedlot finished meat, as we all know. My prices are always at least 50% higher. Sometimes it's double what I find in the grocery stores. And as I said early on, I have been selling all the product I can grow. People are willing to pay it. And I laughed last week when Jessica talked about stand firm on your price. If somebody comes into the farmer's market and sets up next to you selling apples for 25 cents a pound when yours are $1.25 a pound, be brave, because that farmer next to you, he's not in business. He's not going to be there every single week. If he were, he would be charging higher prices. You've got to stand firm and stand behind your product. Next slide, Cinda. The marketing venues. There are lots of choices. Diane has talked about 5 or 6 of them that work really well for her. And I think it's all of us, you guys need to examine what's going to work for me. Do you want to go to the farmer's market and get face-to-face with people? What about restaurants? Maybe you're familiar with the restaurant business or chefs, or maybe that's where you'd rather sell. Find the ones that work for you. For me, I decided early on, and I've said this before, mail order in the internet, because I'm running this farm all by myself, the entire business, and I needed the internet to be my sales force. I was not interested in doing farmers markets. Getting out there because of the time involved was the large reason, and the other one is, in a former life with former work, I worked trade shows, and I just got tired of it. So I tasked myself with creating a website. Well, first off, creating a marketing strategy that fit me. Next slide, Cinda. My strategy has always been spend the least amount of money on marketing, as cheap as possible. Print ads, cost money. Display ads cost more money. And I learned by experimenting with classified ads, especially in these publications like the Money Saver or the Nickel's Worth, where people find bargains. They're looking for bargains. I've had too many people call me in response to a classified ad say, "You're charging how much for meat? Why, I can go to Costco and get it for blah, blah, blah." And so, of course, I say, "Oh, yeah, well, if you're shopping price, yeah, I think you should go to Costco. They have some great deals." And that's the end of the conversation with those people. So I stopped wasting my money on those ads and instead focused my efforts on free publicity. There's lots of it to be had out there, and take advantage of it. This shot is, I don't know if you can read the fine print, but several times a year I'll take a tame leash trained sheep and some wool to events. Like I go to my local public library reading program for kids, and I'll take a sheep and I'll take the wool, and this may be the first sheep they ever get to touch. We'll talk about wool, and gee, quite often somebody will take a picture of it, and this one showed up in the paper. That's one of my pet sheep inside my Jeep. That was kind of fun. Next slide, Cinda. It costs nothing, but it comes back to you. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a completely unrelated situation, like, I don't know, my local nursery, and I'll meet somebody, we'll introduce ourselves, and they'll say, "Ah, Melissa Lyons, I've heard of you. Yeah, you're that gal with the sheep out there." And I'm thrilled. Great, because word gets around. People talk. I'm glad that people know what I'm doing. This is our local newspaper publishes a special edition every year on things that are going on in agriculture. And what I want to point out about this one is, aside from the fact that I don't really like the picture of myself, but oh well, can't help it. I'm the one who initiated this. I have been in a past life an editor, and I know that editors of publications are always looking for content, interesting material that their readers are going to be interested in. So I called the editor of our local paper, told him who I was, what I was doing, and go to my website, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, so you see I know what I'm doing, and maybe you want to send out a reporter and a photographer. Well, they did, and this was a 4-page spread. I was delighted. I also was able